Hello. Today, in our series on Africa's business leaders, we're in conversation with Faisal Hoosen, Sales Director at Hexing, South Africa, a smart technology firm contributing to industrial development and energy innovation across the continent. Now, as South Africa looks to reinvigorate its economy through traditional industrial activities like manufacturing, mining, and energy, there's also growing momentum around how multilateral platforms such as BRICS can amplify those efforts, with South Africa taking a more assertive role within the BRICS, particularly in sectors like energy, infrastructure, and smart technology. The question is, though, how can these partnerships translate into real economic growth as well as job creation? Faisal, thanks so much indeed for joining us on the BRICS Africa channel.
Thank you for having me, Peter. Really great to meet you.
So, Faisal, let's begin by talking about traditional industries and how they can boost South Africa's economy. How can they do that?
Peter, I think firstly I'd look at what traditional industries are, and I would classify them as mining, manufacturing, and energy. Really the backbone of South Africa's economy. And to boost them, I'd say we need to modernize them. So technology adoption, skills development, localization. These for me are so important. I'll give you an example. So where I'm at the moment, I work for a business that's headquartered in China, actually. And we've got a local production facility for smart meters. And we built this factory to support the consumption of meters, not only for South Africa, but for Zambia, Zimbabwe, Mozambique, Angola, amongst others. So initially, this business started via a partnership. The entity from China came in, worked with a partner. But around 10 years ago now, the Department of Trade and Industry in South Africa, they sent out a circular. And what they did was they designated smart meters. They said a smart meter in South Africa has to have 50% local content. And a prepayment meter needs to have at least 70% local content. So that drove the investment out of China, allowed us to build this factory. This factory today is based in Midrand, and it produces 400,000 meters per year. It's grown to 100 people. It supports, as I said, neighboring countries. So it underpins those three things I was talking about. Technology adoption. Now we've got this deep understanding of the unique requirements of what a smart meter means in South Africa, because it's different to Europe. A smart meter in South Africa is a little different, and topic for another day, but it is different. Then you've got the skills development. So you've got these guys in our factory. They have learned a hell of a lot from our R&D team in China and the global team. And then you've got this localization. So now you've built up an ecosystem of suppliers around the business. They supply into the company. And this makes you meet the requirements of the 50% local content. So that knock-on effect is good for business.
So, talk to me a little bit more about smart manufacturing, smart technology, enabling things like infrastructure and modernizing these traditional industries. Is there an opportunity for all of these traditional industries to modernize? And what have you seen as being the effect of modernization?
I would say there's a great deal of industry that can benefit from modernization. A lot of the fears of labor around modernization can be addressed because often it's modernization is seen to be through the lens of automating things and taking people away. But what it often creates is it often creates a higher level of job. And that's what I think is an enabler. It unlocks a lot of value. I often use an example in Kenya, for example. You had a market that was slowly dwindling away for retail channels, and they built a business similar to what Uber does, where you've got delivery vehicles, and that created a huge influx of employment. People now could get on a bike, deliver goods, and it creates employment. So I think again, technology shouldn't scare us. It's enabling. And to answer your question, it fits in many industries. You've just got to think about how you can meet both those goals. Automate, make yourself more efficient, but also grow the skills in the business. And they're not mutually exclusive.
The way you've told me the story, I think it fits the BRICS scenario perfectly, where you've got China, South Africa, companies coming together and forming a partnership, a collaboration. And I guess this is what makes the BRICS story rich and can help South Africa and South African industries grow.
Absolutely. I mean, the BRICS partnerships, they really play such a vital role in South Africa's growth. You've got the ability to access capital, technology, which I've sort of maybe spoken quite a bit about already, but also access to new markets. So China, for example, they bring manufacturing expertise. They also can bring investment in critical infrastructure. Some of the other BRICS nations, on the other hand, you've got trade diversification opportunities. So you could open up markets. We're so strong in agricultural exports, and that opens up markets. BRICS opens up such markets. So if you look at using these partnerships, fostering skills, R&D collaboration, supply chain resilience, these are sort of vital for our economic growth.
So, using your company as an example, does that mean that we have enough skills already to start these collaborations? Because these companies from China, India, Russia, wherever, they're coming in, but they want to find some talent already on the ground. Do we have enough, do you think, already to start these conversations?
Such a good question, Peter. Yes, I really think that South Africans are such they're ingenious. You find a problem, and whether it's in a township or an industrial area, you find a problem and somebody has a solution. Those creative solutions, what do they need? They need somebody to monetize it or industrialize it. And this is where these players, they often don't have the problem. They don't have the idea. What they do have is the funds. What they do have is the engineering skills. They don't have the idea, and those engineers by and around themselves will not be able to understand the problem and work through the solution. They need the people that have come up with the ideas to work with them and put the solution together. So 100%, we've got really smart people in the country. Again, I come back to one that's an example that for me has always been amazing. We had in South Africa a problem with tampering of electricity meters. So we developed prepayment in South Africa, and all the manufacturers went their own directions. So Eskom soon realized that we need to standardize on an algorithm. You know those digits you plug into your meter? That's based on a certain algorithm. So that algorithm was written in South Africa about 30 years ago. And the amazing part is you'd be surprised that that standard, there are more meters supplied with that algorithm in Indonesia than there are in South Africa. So Indonesia saw the benefit of an engineering concept South Africa had created, adopted it. China, being very close to Indonesia, starts producing product to support the Indonesian market, and then looks at it later and says, hang on, we can also support the South African market where the technology was built in the first place.
Right.
So I hope that gives you an idea of how smart South Africans are.
That's a brilliant, brilliant example. And I'm just thinking the technologies then, so you've got the partnership in play, but you are developing in many respects new and unique technologies to solve certain solutions. Are these solutions globally competitive? I mean, are you doing things that are competing and sometimes even ahead of other parts of the world?
So I'll use an example again. Our need and our differentiators in the country. We've had a generation crisis. When I say generation, I'm talking about load shedding. So that brings us a unique challenge. Other countries have progressed further and faster on their renewable journey, for example. We've lagged behind. So that unique challenge means we've got to find solutions for that. And companies like ours have found novel solutions that can help. So absolutely, I mean, absolutely, to answer your question.
All right, as we start to wrap up our conversations, what benefits do you think South Africa can expect from increased trade with BRICS nations?
So so the benefits I see is that we can upskill our workforce, cross pollination of ideas and skills. We can look to have investment. We can look to grow localization. The DTI example I put out earlier is a very good example where government put its foot down and said, let's have local. Let's enforce local, and let's make sure that companies aren't coming in to simply supply. They come in with a long-term view. They come in to develop the economy. And these are the knock-on effects are more than what I've said, because that's one company coming in, and then it has to build up a supply chain of other components because of the designation of the parent component. So you have lots of little industries supporting the key or the main supply industry.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds exciting. I'm just wondering though, solutions is what drives us and drives innovation and creativity. What do you think are some of the key challenges that South Africa and traditional industries are facing at the moment that you think can be addressed?
So I think the one I see is that in we've got these pockets of good examples, and I've used metering as a good example, where you've got the designation. You've got some other gaps where sometimes designation is being circumvented. And when you circumvent that localization component, you undermine the intent. The intent is all the good things we spoke about, to grow our skills, to grow employment. But when you circumvent that, then you allowing companies abroad to feel that you almost have two views of this. I'll play the game sometimes, and other times when it doesn't suit me, I won't play the game. And I feel that that circumventing needs to be monitored very closely. It has an impact on businesses that are already geared to produce local. I've been involved in many companies that they gear up. They gear up on the anticipation of doing some of this work, and then you find contracts are being circumvented, and I feel that's a risk to us.
Faisal Hoosen, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much indeed for joining us on the BRICS Africa channel.
Peter, thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it. Really enjoyed talking to you as well.